Greetings and salutations out there, everybody across the wide and wonderful internet. Your host of the Modern Day Gladiators podcast, Michael Shibley, with you here. And Smokey, I know you were excited. It is Florida week here, Tennessee, Florida, the rivalry. It has always been since it really started, because remember, Tennessee and Florida did not start playing each other every year until 1990. Now, people like me, I was about 7 years old when that started, so I'm used to it. A lot of people, of course, even younger than I am, that are watching this might not even remember a time when Tennessee and Florida didn't play each other every year. It's very new rivalry when you look at some of the historical rivalries that Tennessee has, with Alabama and with Kentucky and Vanderbilt, who are really older, more established rivalries among especially the old school regime with Tennessee fans. So that's where I look at it. But it is a huge rivalry. I've loved it ever since because, again, it was a rivalry that blossomed when I was a young little lad there, 7 years old. So I've always had a special place for this. I mean, Alabama, I still think, is Tennessee's biggest rivalry when it comes, especially in football. But this one, it's one that has stemmed from, again, the rise of the SEC East, once they divided into the two divisions. It's been one. It determined the winner for so long. It was amazing to watch. You had Spurrier and Fulmer. I mean, you look back at some of the great rivalry games, right, Smokey? You look at some of the great ones that you were a part of and I've seen over the years. I mean, you look at the first one really in this rivalry back in 1990. Tennessee and Florida celebrated, it was the 100 years of Volunteers. It was homecoming. Both teams ranked in the top 10. It was a real defensive struggle. It was only 7-3 at halftime. And then Dale Carter, Nigel Warrior's father, by the way, that's how long this has been going on. But Dale Carter runs the second half kickoff back 90 yards on a ball that was probably going to go out of bounds. And, you don't do that. And he just ran all the way 90 yards. The place went electric, and that just opened a big orange floodgate. I mean, you had Tony Thompson just going insane. You got the great offensive line, though, with Antone Davis leading the way. And Tom Myslinski and some of those guys were just great offensive linemen. Smokey remembers those big guys, don't you? And then, of course, one of my all-time favorite plays as a young boy was they faked a reverse. They did like a reverse tight end around pass. Vaughn Reeves, number 89, just unloaded a bomb to Carl Pickens. Back in the day, everybody remember Carl Pickens? He was a great one at Tennessee. Man, making the catch, and just Tennessee had blown it open by that point. It was amazing. Of course, then, all the momentum. And the next week, Tennessee played Alabama and lost 9-6. But that's a whole nother story we'll get into in another point of Tennessee having great games and then somehow blowing the next one. There's a litany of that. We're going to probably devote a whole show of Modern Day Gladiators to that at some point in the future. Not anytime soon, but definitely at some point, Smokey. But then you look at the Thunderstorm game from 1992, where, I mean, you had Mose Phillips running just through the Florida defense on a short little dump pass, and then looking at his watch, and they're downpour, as John Ward said, looking at his watch and saying, it's about time. Todd Kelly was a man on a mission, just ransacking the Florida offense in that one. You look at 1996, Danny Warfel versus Peyton Manning. Florida comes in. Tennessee was ready to finally get revenge on Florida after especially what happened in 95, where we had the big lead and then blew it in the swamp. And you look at that one, Tennessee's ranked number 2. Peyton's a Heisman candidate. And then Danny Warfel comes out and chucks a 4th down pass, I think, on their first drive. And they got it. Tennessee tried to close the gap, and Peyton got all types of records, passing records in that game, but it was just not to be. Of course, 98, the game that goes into overtime, a classic Spurrier Fulmer slugfest with Bob Stoops as the defensive coordinator in that one. And, of course, Florida missing it. No, sir-ree. The goalposts come down. A great matchup there. 2000, another incredible game when you look at the history of these things, where it was just, again, a slugfest. You saw these teams, though, they had dropped a little bit in the rankings, but it was still Tennessee, Florida. It was still really deciding the SEC East. But you had the passage of Jabbar Gaffney that, nobody except nobody believes it was a catch. Even Spurrier said luck was on our side. He doesn't even believe it was a catch. And it was not a catch, but Tennessee let them go 90 yards on that one. So you look at the history there. 2004, Will Hoyt missing the extra point. It was just a back-and-forth game, but then Tennessee gets a little luck on a penalty, drive it, and then Will Hoyt nails the 50-yarder, and the place goes bonkers. The largest crowd in Neyland Stadium ever at that one. I was there for that one with my friends Jesse, Sam, and Amanda. We went crazy at the end of that game. That was nuts. 2001, I skipped that one, the one that got moved back because of the 9/11 attacks, and Travis Stevens going crazy and Volunteers draining the swamp, winning for the first time in Florida in a long time. Just these games you look at. The last few years, you had 2015, Florida getting the bomb there for, or the long pass to win the game and us missing a field goal at the gun. Of course, the streak, the 11-game losing streak finally coming to an end in 2016, and then 2017, the Hail Mary pass that Florida got. This has been a game that has just had some crazy moments, even if both teams aren't in the limelight. 2006 with the arrival of Tim Tebow. I could go on all day talking about the great ones, but let's talk about this matchup real quick. I'm going to actually make the Tennessee pick early, so Smokey, you're probably going to be mad at me. Okay, calm down. I know you're probably going to be mad at me, but hear me out. You know I'm still rooting for Tennessee, even though I got the Bullet Club shirt for life on right now. You can be mad at me, but you know I'm rooting for Tennessee, okay? So just chill a little bit, all right? Okay, yeah, I know. Don't be too sad, but we'll talk about it. I know you're picking Tennessee anyway, no matter what. So, but anyway, you look at this game. This game could really be a make-or-break type of game for Jeremy Pruitt as far as this season goes. Really, you look at it because, I mean, after this game, you've got at Georgia, you got a bye week, then it's at Auburn, Alabama comes to Neyland Stadium, at South Carolina. So this is our best opportunity, I think, to get a win. We'll see how the South Carolina game shapes out in the next few weeks, but, I mean, if Jeremy Pruitt wins this game, and then we don't win even any more, we only beat like Charlotte, and then don't win any others, we still beat Florida in a case where we got to win. It's the Florida game. It's good for recruiting. It's the great atmosphere that always follows there. You look at it. Tennessee, and people have been saying, what has scared me a lot is the fact that a lot of Tennessee fans keep saying, well, Florida finally lost to Kentucky, so they're ripe for the picking. We should be able to beat them. I think Kentucky's a better school or better team than a lot of people think right now. They've got Mississippi State coming to Lexington. I think they're going to give Mississippi State all that they want. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. I'll pick my winner there. But when you look at how Tennessee is in this game, it's something you have to pay attention to. The defense has played great. Again, most likely 2 glorified scrimmages with UTEP and ETSU. So we're going to see. This is going to be an old-fashioned Spurrier-Fulmer slugfest when it comes down to everything, when you look at how it's going to be. I think it's going to be very low scoring. Now, again, we're the team that made Felipe Franks look like the recruit that he was, the star that he was recruited to be, because everybody was recruiting Felipe Franks, and he got that bomb to win last year after Tennessee blew the coverage and terrible coaching decisions and all that stuff that I really don't want to talk about anymore, but you got to bring it up sometimes. So you look at things like that. I think this game is going to be very low scoring. I bet the under. I don't bet the line on Tennessee games at all, but I did bet the under. I think it was at 47. It's probably moved down a little bit. I think this game is going to be, again, low scoring. It's going to go into the fourth quarter, and we're going to see, this is going to be the first one where I think Jeremy Pruitt's really going to have to make big coaching decisions on a bigger basis. I mean, you had the game against West Virginia, and he had that big 4th down gamble at 4th and goal there that got us our first touchdown. That was a great call, but I think he's going to have to make more of that because eventually West Virginia just started blowing Tennessee out at the end of that. So we will see where it all goes from here. I unfortunately think Florida has – stop looking at me like that. I think Florida has a little bit more talent overall right now. Dan Mullen has been in situations like this a little bit more. So I like Florida, and again, I'm just going with history too, with Tennessee finding ways to just, especially in this rivalry game, to make mistakes and do dumb things, and Florida taking advantage of it. I think Florida gets the win on a late field goal. I like Florida winning 20-17. You can hate me, and if I'm wrong, and I'm going to be rooting for my Vols as hard as possible in this one, and you guys can ride me as long as you guys follow me here on Modern Day Gladiators, and you guys can do that. I would appreciate it. Hey, if I'm wrong, I would love to be wrong, but I just don't see it this year. We'll see what happens as these years go on, but I've got Florida winning 20-17. I know, it's okay, Smokey. You know, I'm still a Vol for life. You know that, buddy. I know. You know I know. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. So, but let's run down some of the other games real quick. I know I've run a little bit long, but it's Florida week. I'm excited. Always excited about this week. So let's just run down some of these other games real quick. I've got my little handy notepad just to run them down. Georgia at Mizzou. Again, we've got a lot of interesting road games for a lot of top teams, especially in the SEC this week. So we'll kind of see how these predictions go. I still like Georgia to get the win. Drew Lock, though, for Missouri. I said Mizzou and Missouri at the same time. Drew Lock, NFL caliber quarterback, I think is going to give Georgia all that they want. Georgia has struggled, especially it's a noon kickoff, or it's 11 a.m. there in Columbia. So look for that game to be closer than a lot of people think. But Georgia, again, more talent. I like Georgia to get the win in that one. Notre Dame at Wake Forest. Notre Dame has struggled since that Michigan win. They struggled against Ball State. They probably should have lost against Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt made a couple of mistakes that really cost them in that one. I'm going to go with Notre Dame to get the win again, but it's going to be a close one. I think Wake Forest is a pretty darn solid team there in the ACC. Texas A&M and Alabama. Alabama's at home. Texas A&M, they're coming off again. They played number 2 Clemson a couple weeks ago. Now they got to play Alabama. That's a tough road to hoe there for Jimbo Fisher. I think Jimbo Fisher's got Texas A&M going in the right direction. Just not going to happen this week, unfortunately. I've got Alabama getting the win in that one. South Carolina at Vanderbilt. Again, we'll see where Vanderbilt is after the tough loss at Notre Dame. I do have South Carolina getting the win. But again, these are going to be tough games. I think some of these matchups that I've just mentioned are going to be very close, a lot closer than people think. TCU at Texas. We'll see where Texas is off the win against USC. And, of course, TCU coming off a hard-fought loss after eventually just getting blown out at the end there by Ohio State. I still like TCU. I think they're the more talented team right now with Gary Patterson. I like TCU to get the win there. Mississippi State at Kentucky. I mentioned it earlier. I think Kentucky is a better team than a lot of people think. I'm going to go, though, with Mississippi State because I've got them challenging and being a factor in the SEC West. A lot of people haven't noticed them because they haven't really played anybody yet. They did play Kansas State, but I don't think Kansas State's very good this year. I still like Fitzgerald and the Mississippi State Bulldogs to get the win, but I think a very good game there in Lexington. Stanford at Oregon, the primetime game on ABC tonight out there in the Pac-12. I like Stanford to get the win at Oregon. I think, again, a very good game. We'll see where Oregon is. Stanford, I think, has played a little bit tougher schedule. Better talent overall. I like Bryce Love and the Cardinal to get it done there. Wisconsin at Iowa. Really interesting. Wisconsin coming off just a loss to BYU that they probably shouldn't have lost, but they just made too many mistakes, and BYU came to play. I think BYU is a lot better than people think this year. I've got Wisconsin getting the win, but it is against an Iowa team, and I think they're the other good team in the Big Ten Western Division. I still like Wisconsin to get the win, but I do think it's going to be a struggle for them. Iowa always gives them fits, but I think if Wisconsin can get this win, it's going to be clear sailing for a division title for the Badgers there in the Big Ten that still have a lot to play for. I know, Smokey. Arizona at Washington. Arizona State. Again, they finally lost under Herm Edwards. I do like Washington in this one. Washington, I think, just far more talent in this one. I like the Huskies to get the win at home. And, of course, we already picked Tennessee. For those of you who weren't around for that one when we were live here, I've got Florida 20-17. Tennessee 17. I know, Smokey. I know it's bum you out, but we're still going to root hard for the Vols. We're going to be cheering for them and making a lot of noise. So we're going to be there for that. Of course, after the game, I'll be live with a recap. Again, my name is Michael Shibley here on the Modern Day Gladiators podcast. You guys hang around here. Again, like, subscribe, share, comment wherever you see this on Facebook Live, on YouTube. I would appreciate it and appreciate a follow as well. I love you guys, as the Bullet Club say. Too sweet. I'll see you next time. Love you. Go Vols.